Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025, and today we are discussing where we, here on my farm, get our seeds, straw, and helping the soil recover from a drought. So let's do it. Recover from a drought. That's fun to say. All right, everyone, welcome to Tilth Tuesday. Every Tuesday is brought to you by our friends at Tilth Soil, and it's officially their pre-sale season for 2026. So check that out at tilthsoil.com/farmers to get a pretty sweet deal on potting mix for next season. Link will be in the show notes. Obviously, my voice is still on vacation for some reason, but I am here in body and spirit, and so we will jam on. Also, we got our first snowfall of the season this week, so that's fun. I know I talked about this a little bit last year, but snow is an excellent insulator, and I appreciate when it drops a light layer of frost protection over the whole farm. I'm good with that. It's a lot easier than me doing it. I didn't do a whole lot of, let's say, interesting stuff yesterday of note, at least not farmy stuff. I did some work on some house projects, the details of which I won't bore you with, but things that were satisfying to me at least. That will probably be a lot of the next month or so. I've also got a new project for Sayer that they asked me to do that will hopefully benefit all of our listeners. So that'll be free, and that will be, I have no idea when it will be done, but when it's done, it will be awesome. So I look forward to getting work on that. And yes, for now, that's all I'm going to tell you, but it will be cool. Oh, and Happy Giving Tuesday. No-Till Growers is a 501c3, so please don't forget about us this giving season and this Giving Tuesday. It just helps us to grow this mission of keeping farming information like this free and open to anyone and everyone in the world. You can hear more about how to do that and get that sweet end of the year tax break in the show notes. We thank you very much. All right, so straw mulch. Let's talk about it. Straw is the dried stalks of a grain crop, contrasting that with the fresh cut green stalks of grass that we call hay. And what typically happens here is that a grain crop is grown, it matures, and that grain is harvested, leaving behind the stalk. These stalks are then cut and baled and sold as straw. This could be large round bales, it could be square bales. The beauty of straw is that when grown well and harvested properly, it should have very little, if any, weed seeds in it. The seeds of literal weeds, I mean, or wannabe weeds like the grain it came from. Straw is light, which makes transport and then physical distribution easier for straw than say hay or compost, etc. Straw is also light color-wise, which makes it good for cooling the soil. Then, of course, it does a really nice mulchy job covering the soil, holding it, holding the moisture in, holding the soil in place, all the things. It can blow around a bit, especially after it's first laid out, but the decomposition will lock the straw in place pretty well and relatively fast. Now, on the cons side, because straw is the dried stalk of grain that is fully senesced, straw contains very little in the way of nutrients. It's basically just carbon because many of the nutrients it once contained are now jammed inside of those little seeds that it made, which is one reason seed meals make an excellent fertilizer. Just it's got lots of nutrients in it. Also on the con side, well, the volunteer weed seed thing, that's obvious one. You don't want to plant strawberries and then mulch them in the fall with straw that contains, even though they're called strawberries, with straw that contains winter wheat because, well, you've just planted wheat. And that is a strangely specific example because I've done it. In some cases, that could be a boon. You plant straw and the cover crop, but mostly it won't be, especially not around your strawberries. Another con is the potential for contamination. Now, this is not as common as it may seem, but some growers, generally in the north, where seasons are short, may spray their grain crops with an herbicide to dry it down faster called desiccation. Again, it is not that common, but we are talking about large grain growers, so some of the resulting straw can potentially make its way to local distributors, in which case, if you are not in an area that grows much grain, you could still wind up with straw from the north via one of these, various distributors. In the ideal scenario, you know the person that grew it and can ask them if it's been sprayed or when it was sprayed. They may spray some pre-emergent herbicide for weed control. That means before it comes out of the ground. This, I guess I'm less concerned with in terms of contaminating the straw physically in the way that desiccation can. Not saying there isn't any risk there, just it's significantly less likely to harm your plants in the way that fresh herbicide sprayed on a mature stalk could. Anyway, what have been some of your experiences using straw? Good? Bad? Again, I like it in the summer for cooling soil. I like it underneath compost for lasagna gardening. And I like that it's light because I'm lazy in the heat and I don't want to lift up, heavy stuff. But what say you? Let us know. And otherwise, it's break time when we come back, where we get our seeds, be our beads. See, people say I'm not a poet. I don't know who says that. Somebody does. Today's episode is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Farmhand. Farmers who partnered with Farmhand say they grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand is your business coach and assistant, helping to sell out, save time, and grow smarter with real data from real farms, shaping websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that run smoothly. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/no-till and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere the questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Steve Broad, who asks, quote, October question. Yeah, this one's from October, sorry. Who do you get your seeds from? You mentioned Johnny's a lot in your posts and have So Right Seeds above. Any others? Generally, I like Johnny's, but they can be a bit spendy, and I've had some issues with getting the wrong seeds in correctly labeled packages. Find Haas is a little better on price and sending the right seeds, but their selection can be limited. Thanks, end quote. All right, so great question, and I think I did talk about this in a segment last year, but also this is always a good one to revisit, and there are a few things I should make sure to emphasize when shopping for seeds, and then I can discuss a bit about who we use. Obviously, in the name of full disclosure, we are, or have been at some point, sponsored by Johnny's, High Mowing, So Right Seeds, and True Love Seeds. Now, I have been using these same purveyors pretty much for 15 years, so that'd be like 6 years before Jackson and I even started No-Till Growers, but obviously, a full disclosure is always warranted and necessary when talking specifics, which I plan to do because I think it's important, for sure. All right, so where one buys seeds can be deeply personal or at least contextual. I know growers who grow for chefs, for instance, chefs that want new and different and unique crops all the time. And so those growers can't just order from big companies, but rather have to seek out new and different varieties regularly every year. They may use a dozen or more suppliers in order to be able to do that and stay ahead of the market. Then perhaps you have other growers who, for instance, like specialize in Asian crops and support companies like Kitazawa that sell everything from bitter melons and shiso and unique eggplants and cucumbers and all the things. Italian Seeds is another one that may get a lot of attention from growers who want to grow, say, radicchio. Now, the three companies I on my own farm use the most are probably Johnny's, High Mowing, and Fedco. It's been that way since I started farming. I like all of them for different reasons. Johnny's is, fast, and it has the Salanova lettuce that we grow. Plus, they are pretty consistent for us. I'm sorry that you've had issues. We've never had that issue. High Mowing is also fast, but everything they have is organic. So that makes it easy to know that what I'm getting is compliant with organic certification if you're an organic certified farmer, and that, of course, it's not treated. And this is no knock on Haas. They make great tools and they seem like good folks, but some of their seeds are treated, so you do have to make sure to pay attention for treated seeds. Fedco is another good one that we have used forever. One, because they are cheap, especially if you team up with other farms and get in on the bulk discount rates. And two, because they have a few varieties I can't get elsewhere, like Jetstar, my favorite red slicing tomato. I love those things dearly, but Fedco can be a little slow on delivery, making it up for price and consistency, though. I also think everyone should have at least one or two or three local companies to get seeds from. Like here, I will order some things from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange because a lot of the seed is produced in Virginia, which is a pretty similar climate to my own. If you're in a high altitude, find a high altitude grower like Wild Mountain Seeds or, depending on where you are, if that makes sense for you. If you're out in the Pacific Northwest, there are companies like Osborne Seeds and Territorial who are both great. The Midwest has folks like Buffalo Seed Company and So Right Seeds and others. True Love is out of Pennsylvania and has a cool profit share program for their seed growers. So definitely that's the kind of stuff you should support, spread the love out a little bit. So we always suggest people, look locally, literally just Google like seed company in Texas or wherever you are and see what's available in your region or climate. And then if you want to, you can talk to them about what seeds they actually breed there because that could be better for your situation. Though, of course, that doesn't mean you can't grow seeds from outside of your climate. Just, it's good to have a few that are bred for where you are. Like I get my regular bean seed from Southern Exposure now because in the past we've ordered it from other companies, and when we grow those beans, they just don't perform very well. And I'm talking specifically like the dried beans. And a lot of that is just like, if it's not bred in a humid climate, it's not going to perform as well in the humid climate like what we have. Now, there are a ton of seed companies out there, and there are a few I don't use because much of their catalog is like treated seeds, or they are priced for backyard growers, which means they're very high priced and frankly way too expensive for us, or maybe they only sell in small quantities, so it costs us a lot of money to get the amount that we need. Anyway, I think that having a couple standard places for the bulk items and a couple climatic or crop specific places is what most growers would say they use. Of course, don't hesitate to dabble and support some of those smaller companies in your area and around the country. And there are a lot I just are not coming to mind that I would love to shout out. And of course, if you're up in Canada, support Turn a Soul Farm and Dan Breezewald's work, obviously. Anyway, because we are on a relatively small scale, we can usually find the cover crop seeds we need through one of those as well, one of those above companies. But when you start getting into larger acreage, you start getting into needing a bigger bulk discount. So that may change who you look into. When you're at conferences this winter, just pro tip, check in with some of the local seed purveyors who show up and just kind of hear them out, hear their story, get connected with local seed folks and seed swaps as well. They often have those at conferences now, which is very cool to see. On a production scale, we have to have really consistent production. But if you've got some room to play, by all means, do a little playing. I'd love to hear from others in other countries and see who you all use. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. And I will get to your sweet corn questions perhaps closer to sweet corn time, Steve. But thank you. And next, we are going to turn our attention to recovering the soil after a drought. Be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by FarmRaise. Still struggling with your balance sheet? Your lender's asking for a balance sheet and you're stuck with a spreadsheet mess or guessing your numbers? FarmRaise Tracks takes the stress out of farm finance. With one click, you can generate an accurate, up-to-date balance sheet that shows your assets, liabilities, and equity. No accounting degree required. You'll be ready for loan applications, tax season, or just a clearer picture of where your farm stands. Join thousands of farmers using Tracks to build stronger businesses. Get 20% off with code NOTIL20 at farmraise.com for the lifetime of your membership. All right, back to the show.
All right, so because I'm officially behind on our Patreon questions, and because that last one was from October, but we're going to get caught back up starting today. So we're going to take a second Patreon question today, which is from the gardening nutritionist who writes, quote, "Hi, Jesse. Love the show and learned so much from your book. My question has to do with what to do to help raised garden beds recover from months of extreme drought. I'm not sure how all of that affected our soil microbiome. We garden using no-till as close to organic practices as possible. One bed is 14 plus years old, while others are only a year. We had too much water until mid-June and then next to nothing until mid-October. We're on a well, so watering was minimal using rainwater. We had stored and olas in some beds. We made choices about what got water and what was on its own. Our garden is in New Hampshire, zone 5A, so we're at the end of growing season. Is there anything I should do now or in the spring? Thanks." End quote. All right. Thank you. Good question. First, bummer about the drought. Our year was a year of extremes as well, where we had nothing but rain until like July, followed by nothing like rain until September. So at least to some extent, I feel ya. Okay, so effectively, how does a drought affect soil health and what can you do about it? According to the research, of which there's a lot on this particular subject, so obviously I did not look at all of it, but generally speaking, the kind of themes that are spread throughout this research is during extended droughts, microbial biomass decreases, so stuff dies, in other words, and or becomes less active. It's not procreating, to use the family-friendly word. Enzymatic activities decrease as well, which makes sense because microbes need water to do their thing, like basically every living organism. Carbon dries up and available nutrients, in particular nitrogen and phosphorus, decline as well. In short, when the soil dries out, the microbial and nutritional bank dries up a little bit. Now, it can be recovered, of course, because soil is amazing. But there are really two things to consider here: recovery and also preparation. In terms of recovery, some compost and a good cover crop can go a long way. Compost is going to bring in micro critters and the habitat that they need to live in and replace some of the lost nutrients. And the cover crop is going to tie it all together and increase the life and available nutrients, all of it. However, in your climate, that may be tough at this point. Obviously, like we're we're probably too late for you to plant much of anything. It's probably snowing up there or icy. So perhaps just start thinking about incorporating the best, highest quality compost that you can in the spring. Now, even if you didn't do that, the soil would still likely rebound well with good soil practices, but good compost will certainly help. Also, in that compost, add some inoculated biochar for housing and also just general soil resiliency. Microbes will appreciate that. Resiliency is really the word that keeps coming to mind here for me. Whenever we talk about these practices, but farming in general, the thing that we need to always have in our minds is resiliency. Droughts or torrents of rain, it is largely the same practices that lead to protection for both. So that would be mulching, incorporating compost, using cover crops, if at all possible, or at least keeping the soil as planted and undisturbed as much as possible, right? Following our soil health principles. I like this question because it feels in some ways like everything I talk about on this channel is aimed at addressing this exact inquiry. Also, the water. You need to aim to store more of it for dry times. Plan for the worst, hope for the best, right? That's a good motto for any farm or garden or world. I think the olas or oyas, as I think it is properly pronounced, are an interesting touch. Not something I've ever used, but I like the ingenuity there. And certainly on a small scale, having some sort of bucket or a container slowly saturating the soil is a cool emergency, irrigation option if you have the means. But can you store more water in larger tanks? Can you dig a small pond, another well? Maybe not, and that's okay. Later this week, I will discuss some tips for dry farming because we talk about them for a little bit in tomorrow's interview, but I wanted a few days to kind of sit and really think about what tips and tricks we actually use for dry farming. Anyway, I think that's it for this Tilt Tuesday and Giving Tuesday, because don't forget, No-Till Growers is one of those nonprofit 501c3s, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated on Giving Tuesday or any Tuesday. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and also to my wife, Hannah, for everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at no-tillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of December, you get a shout on the show. So big shout outs today to Nick Weiland. Nick Weiland, good name. And shouts to Nick for keeping the story going, because as you will remember from yesterday's story, that our heroine this week, Madeline, has this idea for a one-woman show that can be acted out specifically in movie theaters. Like, it doesn't need a stage. And this is part of an attempt to save some of the many cool movie theaters out there in the world, but also an attempt to get some older actresses, more work, and also just like thumbing our nose at AI, because we don't need more AI stuff. Anyway, for a full year, she works on this, and then she puts this call out, actresses needed, must be 45 years or older, and et cetera, et cetera. The kicker, of course, is that she is going to fly all of these actresses out to Vegas for training. Then the show would begin shortly thereafter, and that show, the opening night, I guess, is for tomorrow on Who's Washed Up Now? At least that's what Madeline wants to call it. She's not going to, but that's what she wants to call it, especially after the reviews start pouring in. Anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you then. Bye.